Most people who feel tired all day, every day, have no idea it might be their blood. They blame stress. They blame bad sleep. They drink more coffee, push through the afternoon crash, and wonder why the fog never actually lifts, no matter how much rest they get. It's one of the most common, most overlooked health problems in the modern world, and almost nobody thinks to check for it until a doctor finally runs the test. Long before lab work and supplement aisles existed, the people of the ancient world had already solved this exact problem, using ordinary foods straight from their fields, their kitchens, and their scripture. Today, we're breaking down 10 biblical iron bombs every healthy diet needs, 10 foods with deep roots in ancient life that quietly built strong, oxygen-rich blood long before anyone had a name for iron deficiency. Doctors now estimate that a staggering number of adults, women especially, walk around low on iron for years without ever catching it, because the symptoms, exhaustion, brain fog, cold hands, always get blamed on something else. And stay with me until the very end, because the 10th item on this list isn't even a food. It's something sitting in your kitchen cupboard this exact moment, and almost nobody realizes it's been quietly working in their favor the whole time. Let's start with the one story in the Bible that's actually about food and blood at the same time. In Genesis chapter 25, Esau comes in from the field, starving, and trades away his entire birthright for a bowl of red stew. That stew was made from lentils. Lentils are small and they're humble, but they are one of the most iron-dense foods that grow from the ground. A single cooked cup delivers around 6.6 milligrams of iron, which is a serious contribution toward your daily needs. Lentils also carry a meaningful amount of folate, a B vitamin your body needs to actually produce healthy red blood cells in the first place. Iron alone isn't enough. Your body needs folate working alongside it, or that iron has nowhere useful to go. To prepare them the old way, simply simmer dried lentils in water or broth for about 20 to 25 minutes until soft. Add a squeeze of lemon juice at the end. That's not just for flavor. Vitamin C dramatically increases how much of the iron in lentils your body actually absorbs. As always, if you're managing any health condition, check with your doctor before making major changes to your diet. What's remarkable is how ordinary this stew actually was. It wasn't a delicacy or a special preparation. It was simple, everyday food that families across the region relied on constantly, which is exactly why it built such consistently strong blood over a lifetime. Lentils built strong blood in the desert. But the next food on our list was so valuable, it once described an entire nation's abundance. Deuteronomy 8 verse 8 lists the blessings of the promised land, and among them is the date palm, a tree so central to the region that its fruit was often called nature's candy of the ancient world. Dates are soft, sweet, and unbelievably practical, since they require no refrigeration and travel well, which made them a staple for shepherds and travelers alike for thousands of years. Just a handful of dates, about 100 grams, contains close to 1 milligram of iron along with potassium, which supports healthy blood pressure, and an impressive dose of fiber that most modern diets are seriously lacking. Dates were also used historically to sweeten other iron-rich foods, making bitter herbs and grains easier to eat regularly. To use them today, eat 2 to 3 dates as a natural snack, or blend them into a smoothie with leafy greens for a genuine 1-2 iron punch. Dates are naturally high in sugar, so if you're managing blood sugar, keep your portions modest and always check with a professional about what fits your needs. It's worth noting just how central this fruit was to daily survival across the ancient Near East. Entire caravans crossing the desert depended on dried dates precisely because nothing else offered that same combination of quick energy, long shelf life, and genuine nutrition in such a small package. Speaking of ancient snacks that traveled well, our next item shows up in one of the Bible's more dramatic rescue stories. In 1 Samuel 25, a woman named Abigail rushes out to meet David's men with an emergency supply of food, and among the gifts she brings are clusters of raisins. Raisins are simply grapes that have been dried in the sun, a preservation method the ancient world relied on heavily, since fresh grapes spoil fast but raisins can last for months. That drying process actually concentrates the nutrients, including iron. A small half-cup serving of raisins delivers close to 1.5 milligrams of iron, along with potassium and natural antioxidants called polyphenol, which help protect your cells from everyday wear and tear. Raisins were historically pressed into small cakes for soldiers and travelers, giving them a dense, portable source of energy and minerals in one bite. To bring this into your week, add a small handful to oatmeal, trail mix, or a salad, keeping portions to about a quarter cup, since dried fruit is calorie-dense. If you have diabetes or are watching your sugar intake, speak with your doctor about how raisins fit into your plan. What makes this story so fitting is the urgency behind it. Abigail wasn't offering a luxury item. She was offering the most practical, energy-dense food available to feed hungry, exhausted men quickly, and raisins did exactly that job for centuries. Now, if lentils and dried fruit surprised you, wait until you hear about the tiny seed that once traveled entire trade routes for its healing reputation. Sesame seeds don't appear by their exact modern name in most English translations, but they were cultivated and traded throughout the ancient Near East for thousands of years, prized enough to appear in Mesopotamian and Egyptian records as both food and medicine. These tiny seeds pack an outsized punch. 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds contain roughly 2.6 milligrams of iron, along with calcium, magnesium, and healthy fats that support your heart. The seeds also contain compounds called lignans, plant chemicals studied for their antioxidant effects throughout the body. Historically, sesame was ground into a thick paste, what we now call tahini, and used both as a food and as a way to preserve the seed's nutrients for longer storage. To use sesame today, sprinkle whole seeds over vegetables and salads, or spread a spoonful of tahini onto whole grain toast. If you have a known sesame allergy, avoid it entirely and consult your doctor, since allergic reactions to sesame can be serious. Merchants once carried sesame across the same trade routes that moved gold and spice, which tells you something about how highly this small seed was regarded long before anyone understood the science of lignans or antioxidants behind it. From a tiny seed to a full-sized staple now, because the next food on our list was likely on the exact table where Scripture's most famous meals took place. Chickpeas, also called garbanzo beans, were a dietary backbone across the ancient Mediterranean and Middle East, showing up in the same regions where much of the Bible's story unfolds, from shepherds' meals to marketplace staples. A single cup of cooked chickpeas provides close to 4.7 milligrams of iron, plus a hefty dose of plant-based protein and fiber that keeps blood sugar steady and digestion smooth. Chickpeas also contain manganese, a mineral your body needs for bone health and metabolism. In the ancient world, chickpeas were commonly roasted and eaten as a snack, or simmered into thick stews with onions, garlic, and whatever herbs were on hand. To prepare them simply, rinse a can of chickpeas, roast them at 400 degrees for 20 minutes with a little olive oil, and season lightly with salt and cumin. As always, if you're on blood thinners or managing a digestive condition, check with your doctor about adding more legumes to your diet. One more small tip that makes a real difference. Chickpeas absorb whatever flavors surround them, so simmering them with tomatoes, another mild source of iron, actually stretches your absorption even further, since the acidity in tomatoes helps your body pull more iron from the beans themselves. It's this kind of quiet, practical combination that ancient cooks stumbled into through pure trial and error, long before anyone could explain the actual chemistry behind why certain foods paired so well together. Chickpeas fed entire households for generations, but the next item on this list grew wild in the fields Elisha's servants once gathered from. In 2 Kings chapter 4, A famine forces Elisha's servants out into the fields to gather wild gourds and vegetables to keep everyone fed, a small but telling detail about how ancient communities leaned on whatever greens and seeds the land offered in hard times. Pumpkin seeds, sometimes called pepitas, come from exactly this same family of gourds, and they remain one of the most underrated iron sources available today. An ounce of pumpkin seeds delivers about 2.5 milligrams of iron, along with magnesium, zinc, and healthy fats that support brain function. Zinc is particularly important here, because it works closely alongside iron to support a healthy immune system, and the two minerals are often deficient together. Historically, seeds like these were dried and stored through the winter months, providing a shelf-stable source of nutrition when fresh food was scarce. To use them today, roast raw pumpkin seeds with a pinch of salt for 15 minutes at 350 degrees, and sprinkle them over soups, salads, or oatmeal. If you have kidney issues, speak with your doctor first, since pumpkin seeds are relatively high in phosphorus. What's easy to forget is that seeds like these weren't a snack food in the ancient world. They were survival food, carefully saved and rationed through the leanest months of the year when nothing green was growing in the fields. Wild fields fed the desperate in Scripture, but our next food comes from the exact herbs eaten at the very first Passover. Exodus 12 verse 8 instructs the Israelites to eat bitter herbs alongside the Passover lamb, and most scholars agree this almost certainly included dark leafy greens similar to what we now know as chicory, dandelion greens, and wild spinach varieties that grew freely throughout the region. Dark leafy greens remain one of the richest plant sources of iron available anywhere. A cooked cup of spinach delivers around 6.4 milligrams of iron, along with vitamin K for bone health and a strong dose of vitamin A for eye and immune function. The bitterness in these greens actually comes from beneficial plant compounds that support liver function and digestion, which is likely part of why they were chosen for such a significant, symbolic meal. To prepare them, sauté fresh spinach or dark greens in olive oil with garlic for just 2 to 3 minutes, and always pair them with a source of vitamin C, like lemon or tomato, to boost how much iron your body actually absorbs. If you take blood-thinning medication, talk to your doctor, since leafy greens are high in vitamin K and can affect how those medications work. There's something fitting about the fact that the most significant meal in the entire Hebrew calendar leaned on greens like these, foods bitter enough to be memorable and nutritious enough to actually matter for a people about to walk out into the wilderness. Speaking of foods with a serious concentration of nutrients, our next item takes us to one of the oldest and most direct sources of iron the human diet has ever known. Organ meat, particularly liver, was eaten far more commonly in ancient societies than it is today, and nose-to-tail eating was simply the standard practice, since nothing from an animal went to waste in a world without refrigeration. While liver isn't named specifically in Scripture, animal sacrifice and full animal consumption were deeply woven into ancient Israelite life, and organ meats would have been a natural, valuable part of that. Beef liver is, quite simply, one of the single richest sources of iron in existence. A 3-ounce serving contains around 5 milligrams of iron, and this is heme iron, the type of iron your body absorbs far more efficiently than the iron found in plants. Liver also delivers extraordinary amounts of vitamin B12 and vitamin A, both essential for energy and immune health. To prepare it simply, slice liver thin, soak it in milk for 30 minutes to mellow the flavor, then pan-sear it in butter for just 2 to 3 minutes per side. Liver is extremely high in vitamin A, so if you're pregnant or take vitamin A supplements, speak with your doctor before eating it regularly. It's easy to forget just how normal this once was. Families didn't view organ meat as strange or unappetizing. They viewed it as the most nutrient-dense part of the animal, and they made sure none of it went to waste. Now, if organ meat feels intense, our next food is about as gentle and familiar as it gets. Eggs have quietly fed families since the earliest recorded history, And Jesus himself references them directly in Luke 11 verse 12, using an egg as an example of something a good father would never trade for something harmful. A large egg contains close to 1 milligram of iron concentrated mostly in the yolk, along with choline, a nutrient essential for brain and memory function that most people don't get nearly enough of. Eggs also provide complete protein, meaning they contain every essential amino acid your body needs and cannot produce on its own. Historically, eggs were one of the most reliable, affordable protein sources available to ordinary families, requiring no farmland, no harvest season, and very little maintenance beyond keeping a few hens. To prepare them for maximum iron absorption, pair your eggs with something rich in vitamin C, like sliced tomatoes or bell peppers, right on the same plate. If you have high cholesterol, speak with your doctor about how many eggs per week fit safely into your diet. It's a small, humble food, but that's exactly the point of this entire list. Real, lasting health rarely comes from something rare or complicated. It usually comes from the ordinary foods that have quietly nourished families for thousands of years. And now, we've arrived at the final item, the one I promised you at the very start, the one that isn't even a food. Long before cast iron pans were a kitchen trend, ancient cooks across the Near East and Mediterranean prepared meals in heavy iron and clay vessels set directly over open flame, a practice historians can trace back thousands of years. And here's what almost nobody realizes. When you cook acidic foods, think tomatoes, lentil stews, or anything with vinegar or lemon, in a cast iron skillet, small amounts of iron actually leach directly from the pan into your food. Studies measuring this effect have found that cooking tomato sauce in cast iron for just 20 minutes can increase the iron content of the food by several times compared to cooking it in a non-stick pan. It sounds almost too simple to be real, but it's genuine, measurable science. And it means the exact cooking method ancient people relied on out of pure necessity was quietly fortifying their food with iron the entire time, completely by accident. To use this today, simply switch 1 or 2 meals a week, especially soups, sauces, and stews, into a cast iron skillet instead of your usual pan. If you already have a condition called hemochromatosis, where your body stores too much iron, avoid cooking in cast iron and speak with your doctor, since this method is not appropriate for everyone. It's a strange thought, honestly. The very pot our ancestors were forced to cook in, simply because it was the material available to them, turned out to be quietly correcting one of the most common nutrient gaps in the human diet, centuries before anyone understood why. If this list opened your eyes even a little, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because we cover forgotten biblical wisdom like this every single week. 10 sources now sit in front of you: lentils, dates, raisins, sesame, chickpeas, pumpkin seeds, dark leafy greens, liver, eggs, and even the pan you cook them in. But here's the honest problem most people run into next. Iron by itself does very little if the rest of your diet is missing the protein your body needs to actually use that iron, build muscle, and repair itself day to day. Getting your iron right and ignoring your protein is like filling a car with fuel and forgetting the engine needs oil too. Your blood might be carrying oxygen just fine, but without enough protein, your body still doesn't have the raw material it needs to actually repair muscle, support your immune system, or keep your energy steady through the day. One nutrient without the other only gets you halfway to where you actually want to be. So if you want the next piece of this puzzle, the foods that work alongside everything we just covered, click on the video right here titled 10 Biblical Protein Bombs You Need to Have in a Healthy Diet, and let's finish building the foundation your body has been asking for. Drop a comment below telling me which one of these 10 surprised you the most. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know which food you're adding to your kitchen first. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.